96% of new businesses that start don't make it to the 10-year mark. I am not to the 10-year mark yet, but I made it to 7. And whether you are brand new to business or thinking about starting a creative small business, or you're seasoned, you're a vet, you've been in it for years, I want to share with you the truth about being an entrepreneur as I've seen it. So in this video, I'm going to be telling you 9 things I've learned in my first 7 years as an entrepreneur. Hello, hi, if we've not yet met, my name is Ashlyn Carter. I'm a conversion copywriter and brand and launch strategist for creative entrepreneurs, because not knowing what to say shouldn't be the thing holding you back from sales. I am obsessed with talking about direct response copywriting. I'm going to give you the TLDR of my track record in business so you have some sort of context. I started my business in 2016. I was in corporate marketing for years before that. Loved it. When I first started my business, I actually provided copywriting and calligraphy, hence calling it Ashlyn Writes. I also just used our wedding monogram as my logo because I didn't have much. But I started my business because I saw this London Underground, mind the gap size hole in the creative industry, which is what I wanted to serve. Nobody was talking about direct response and sales copywriting, which was my passion. It's what I loved most in corporate marketing. So I started my business. Since then, now I have an agency. I kind of feel like I have, and I've been told, I have 2 businesses under one roof. I have an agency side of my business where I and our team of copywriters actually service our one-on-one clients. We have lots of packages starting in the $3,000 range on up, and I love that. It's our laboratory. It's where we get to experiment and really try things in the trenches and get strategic and do live launches and do live website launches, brand messaging packages. It's so fun. Then on the curriculum side of my business, I really try to equip people to be their own best copywriter. Possibly spicy hot take, I don't think you should outsource copywriting until you know that spaghetti sticks to the wall. You need to know enough to be dangerous. I talk about this all the time. So on this side of the business, I have the Copy Bar template shop. I have courses like copywriting for creatives, Prime to Launch, The Art of Efficiency, and I have my membership, which is relaunching in a few weeks. That's the business. I also 100% have a team. I do not do this on my own, but I started out as a solopreneur and did it by myself for a while. All right, doing all that, here's what I've learned. Number 1, consistency beats raw talent every time. If you've ever read Chet Holmes before, he has a phrase. He says it takes pig-headed discipline and determination. I love that, probably because it's an ugly phrase, thus it sticks in my mind. But I have learned you got to get gritty to stay in this and to keep playing the game. Entrepreneurship is about getting knocked down in public and then getting up all over again, all the time. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Maybe not knocked down as much as a willingness to try new things in public. I know I've talked about this with our students inside the Copy Bar Collective membership. It kind of feels like you are walking around in your bathing suit in public all the time. You're putting yourself out there, you're putting ideas out there. You may have a hypothesis about how it will be perceived, but you're never quite sure until you get it out there. Onto the whole consistent thing, this means a lot of days may look more dull than you initially perceived. And I think the grit and the wherewithal to stay in that is sometimes where the game of entrepreneurship is won and lost. It's like you're in the office, you're hacking at a piece of marble, sculpting it, like I guess Michelangelo style, and then at the end of the day, you put your tools down, you leave, you come back the next day, you pick up your tools and you keep working. And it just takes that over and over and over again. It's almost downright boring sometimes, even though simultaneously no day is the same and you can't predict it. It's that whole James Clear thing. You will fall to your habits. They have to be crystallized. Last thing I'll say about this point, you've got to get good at saying no, not just to opportunities. I feel like you learn that fairly quickly in business, but to the ideas that your brain is going to tell you, this is so great, you should absolutely do this. Again, I told the membership this the other week. I know what I'm building. I have a very clear vision, and that keeps me going a lot of times when I have to choose. I have to weigh things and think, okay, I need to spend my time here, even though this is a fun, sexy idea that looks like a playground. I can't do that right now. I have to be building this because I know the greater vision I'm working towards. Consistency. Thing number 2 I've learned, the only thing that is constant is change. I say this because I remember when I was so starry-eyed and first started in business and everything was new and fun. And then these words came out of my mouth a whole lot sooner than I thought. Wow, it didn't used to be this way. Or, oh, this used to work like X, Y, and Z. It's giving that one time at band camp vibes. I have felt like this about Instagram and Facebook ads all the way to entire movements in the industry or my niche and seeing my niche change. Like I mentioned earlier, when I first started, nobody in my little bubble was talking about what I do, and now there's a lot of people that do. The only thing constant is change. What I tell myself, I hope that this doesn't offend Blockbuster, but I tell myself, don't be Blockbuster. You've got to pivot, you've got to change with the times, you've got to kind of be on the cutting edge of things, and while simultaneously being consistent with what you do. So I balance that a lot of times by giving myself pockets to go out and listen and be aware of what's going on, making sure that I'm in the room, more on that in a minute, for conversation, so I have a pulse on things that are changing, but then I have my vision and what I'm building that I'm focused on. I hope that this all makes sense. This video came from pages in my journal that I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna share these out there on the internet. Hopefully they'll help someone. Number 3, find the people whose opinions you will seek, and they need to be able to fit on a 1-inch postage stamp. This is an axiom I've heard several different places, but you get advice all the time as an entrepreneur, not just from your customers and clients, which you need to listen to, but also from just the greater industry at large and different coaches and different programs, not to mention like every time you swipe on a social media app, you're hearing more advice. It is noisy. So this little postage stamp, and it's a great exercise. Go ahead and do it. Grab a piece of paper, cut a little square out of it, and write down, and you say, these are the people that I will listen to, I will respect their opinions, I will apply their opinions and weigh what they say, but I'm not going to worry about all the other things that are coming in my way. Okay, it works 2 ways, and here's how. Number 1, a good friend, her name's Christina. She actually just recently sold a business. She's a fantastic entrepreneur. She told me one time that she tries to pick 2-ish people a year to listen to as business wisdom givers, and she just stays with them for a year. That's worked great for me as well. I absolutely believe in paid masterminds and paid coaching and paid communities. I do all of those things, but I have to limit the ones that I'm in. So that helps me. And then secondly, you get criticism as an entrepreneur. It's just part and parcel of it. If you haven't gotten it yet, you will soon. One of my first earliest pieces of feedback is a man who hit reply to an email, and he said, "You keep coming back like a bad Taylor Swift song." Looking back, I'll take it. Taste Ways, doing pretty good. But this is another little nugget that I told my membership community. There's a quote, I'll put it over the side, about the leaders are the ones that have arrows in their back. Usually the people that are firing off spouty, mean things at you or commenting, they haven't built what you have. It's a lot easier for them to throw remarks like that, whereas the people that are actually in the trenches and doing the things, they would give feedback a completely different way. So yeah, if they're not on your postage stamp, don't worry about their opinion. Number 4, become obsessed with mastering your craft. One thing people have told me over the years is they respect that I have stayed in my lane as a copywriter. I don't usually venture too much outside of it. I know I kind of am in this video, but I haven't all of a sudden become a business coach or launched some course on, I don't know, Instagram marketing or anything like that. That is a strategic decision. It's something that I have weighed and considered, but it's also because I'm fascinated with figuring out how to be the very best writer possible. A lot of times when I'm sharing writing tips or things in my newsletters, it's real-time learnings that I'm learning too. I just get so excited. I want to share what I'm seeing. I want to say something because usually if I say it, it sticks in my head more. One thing I tell anybody, especially copywriters though, read the old great books. I'm a big fan of trying to figure out how to put in my 10,000 hours before I teach something, and I cannot be enamored enough of old books, old copywriting books, rewriting entire old sales pages and sales letters, like ones that are decades to half a century old. My craft may not be your craft, but if you apply that Chet Holmes thing about pig-headed determination and discipline to your craft and just becoming a student of it day in and day out, that could behoove you in your business. Number 5, read voraciously. You knew reading was coming up, didn't you? Some of the best courses that I've taken, and I do take a lot of courses, they've been books. I cringe to think about what my career would be if I did not read all of the time. And don't get me wrong, I've gone through pregnancy seasons and newborn seasons where reading just is not on the table. It's not an option. But when I can hit rhythms of regularly reading, typically I like to read about a book a week, and I do count audiobooks as reading. I glean so many insights. Even if I only have one takeaway from the whole book that enhances my business or moves the needle 1%, think about if I do that with 12 books in a year. That's a big change. Mark up your books, destroy them, write all in them. One tip that's helped me over the years is at the very beginning of the book, so like open, there's a few blank pages. People set an intention before so many things in life. What if you did that for your book? So sit there and write down, what are you hoping to learn from this book? What's a list of 1 to 3 questions that you're hoping to have answered as you read it? Number 6, if it's a good idea, expect it to be copied. Thus, find what makes you different and exploit it. Exploit it in a good way. Okay, this is another one of those 100% inevitable facts. My membership students asked me, what do I do when I get copied on our call last week? Here's what I told them. First of all, the tactical thing is have a good attorney, have a good lawyer that you trust, because they are the ones that, especially if they're a good one, I've found They'll talk you off the ledge. They'll tell you when you need to be concerned. They'll tell you when you don't need to be concerned or there's nothing you can do. Good lawyers do a little bit of mindset work in there. Secondly, set up a guard dog system of layers. If it hurts you or bothers you to see such information, you don't either know about it because your team is handling it, or the minute it comes in and you let it go, you have bless and release mentality. You've given it to your attorneys to handle. But there's a lot of things that are going to be copied that you can't really do anything about. One thing I always do is I just bet on the fact that I'll have a great next idea. I know my brain's come up with good stuff in the past. It can come up with good stuff in the future. I also come back to realizing that I am the X factor of my stuff, of my offerings, of our agency products and services, of the Copywar Collective. One thing I want to get better about here moving forward and hopefully into the next 3 years is leaning more into what makes me different. What used to make me different, like I've kind of alluded to earlier, is that I was kind of the only one in a space doing it, but I'm not anymore. So I want to lean into and refigure out what my onlyness factor is. Copywriting for creative students. I've told you this before, but I come back to and kind of recenter my onlyness factor every year or so. Number 7, business is relationship. Business is people. Get in the room. Pay to get in the room if you have to. And if you're an introvert like me, I like people. I love being around people. I just am a slow processor. I need time by myself to recharge and get back out there again. If that's you too, then biohack your business so it works for you. Because when you are the CEO, you do need to be the one that's out there shaking hands, making relationships, making friendships. This is a big area I want to grow in the next 3 years. Last year was the first year it really set in that I was the face of my business, the one that needed to be out there. I'm gonna give you 3 ways that I hack this. The first thing I do is I only have 2 days in the business where I'm really front stage and face forward. One day is very team and management focused. I'm setting vision, I'm talking to team, I'm talking to our contractors. And on Thursdays, a lot of you know this, Thursdays I am all about some calls. I pretty much am on calls from 9 to 5. But I do have pockets in the other days where I make myself, I have it on my checklist, I spend about 15 minutes in relationship building time where I'm connecting with peers. Another thing I've done recently, and I got this from the book Build Your Well Before You're Thirsty, I got an old school Rolodex. I mean, just look at this beauty. But it's because I've realized I need to communicate with people. I need to reinvigorate past relationships. I need to serve these people. This is one of the best ways I can serve my business these days. I have spent a lot of the past 2-ish years building a team. Now it's time for me to step more in the CEO position. Number 8 thing I've learned. At some point, you're also building the team that builds the product and expect it to take double the work. Team building is hard. I loved this quote that I saw one time on TikTok a while back. Natalie Dawson said, remember, when you are in a formal leadership position, you no longer build the product, you build the team that builds the product. That's true for a lot of businesses. It's not quite true for a small business because you probably have a major hand in product development or the service offer, but team building takes time. I have had to make the conscious decision. I know last year I just wasn't on social media much. I know that my follower growths or whatever took a hit because of it, but I can't get to where I want to get if I didn't focus on building a solid team. You have a culture, even if you don't realize it. It's taken me a few years too to get comfortable being in the leadership position of the business, but yeah, you're building the team that builds the product. And number 9, I've learned that God knows a heck of a lot more about lifetime customer value and profit and loss statements, average cart value, return rates, investing, any business thing that I'm like, I've got this. I can figure this out. And I know I'm talking about faith for a minute and I might lose some of you, but figuring out how to have a small business with biblical principles is something I am passionate about figuring out. I pray for wisdom constantly. There's a verse in James that tells us we can do this. I have to do it every single day. Also, on the days I feel like don't praying or asking for wisdom, I think about this Martin Luther quote where he says something to the tune of, I'm so busy today that I could spend hours in prayer. It seems counterintuitive, but ain't that the dang truth? It's the days when I feel too busy and too stressed to slow down that I screw things up all the time. So yeah, God is good. I ask for wisdom constantly. Need to do it a million times more. Okay, I hope you liked this video. I know it was a little bit different. Over the years, figuring out what is going on between here and here, I've learned is never gonna stop. I'm always gonna be working on my mindset. I'm always gonna need coaching, and I have to surround myself with peers and a community that can help push me towards my goal. I've got some resources below this video that may help you out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.